Rhea, thank you very much for being with me today.
Thank you for having me.
You are very important to me right now. You are the mother of those two beautiful boys that we have in every single video of my programs.
So we met originally through Child Find, those services.
What was your concern about your children that you took them to Child Find?
My biggest concern was their speech.
Really, speech and language that you were worried about?
I would say it was mainly speech, but Braxton had more difficulty. His words were very garbled. Yes. They were diagnosed with a speech delay, and Braxton had a slight delay in cognitively, as far as picking up things and connecting. Through their testing, I was also alerted to some delay in cognitive skills. We had you for a minute, and then we followed through with VPK and continuing their normal education, and I wasn't able to focus a lot on educational things, that they were a little bit behind, and I just felt like they needed more. I reached out and found you again, and we started trying out your program and having you work with the kids and just getting them on the right path where they needed to be. And so far it has been amazing. It's working out so well, so thank you so much. And Ms. Brenda, you were able to get them to where they needed to be for kindergarten, and they're in kindergarten now. So far they're doing great. I think they've made that jump more or less with cognitive. Beckham has fully, I think, made it through speech and is doing great. He's smart as a tack, which makes it harder for me in some senses.
Why?
Just because now he knows everything. There's like a lot of negotiation going on, and why, and Braxton's, he's still doing his usual talking. He's still working on a little bit of cognitive, but I feel like he either just needs a little more time to connect, but his smarts are there. So either way, he's come so far from where he started. So far. It's barely visible to see or know that he's having little problems here and there.
What is your desire for their future? How do you see them progressing?
I think my ultimate goal is just to be aligned with the curriculum that they need to be with, but also if they can be ahead, that's great. I think any parent wants their kid to be ahead in some ways. Knowledge is power, as they say. Through the programs, I feel like it gives them the power and the tools to understand things better.
So if your children are reaching kind of where they need to be right now and they're doing well in kindergarten, why are you continuing?
You can always learn more. There's no reason not to continue. Teaching me as well as them how to now progress with this new stage in their life, as in kindergarten school. They now have homework, they have sight words, they have all these different things. So I think just continuing would help me and would help them just get into.
What do you think your kids would be if you hadn't done the programs?
I think that my kids would have ended up having to be in like a specialty school or program, which would have saddened me immensely. And I would have felt very horrible, because any parent wants to know that they've done as much as they can for their kids. And if they weren't doing this program and they ended up more like still delayed, I would have felt just like I just wasn't doing my job as a parent.
I always tell parents to be ready for kindergarten. Is this true?
Oh, absolutely.
Why? What's different? Once they enter kindergarten, what was the difference for you?
The first difference was, they are in school all day and they're working all day. There's not a lot of play going on, and they came home so exhausted. I mean, I've never had my kids come home and fall asleep on the couch at 6 p.m. in the afternoon. That's never happened. So they, you know, their brains are being, you know, worked to their absolute limit and maximum. I mean, that's great and also like hard at the same time. So they need to gear up and get ready for that. So,
right?
Yeah, absolutely.
I tell parents that kindergarten is intense.
Yeah, I knew that it was gonna come. I wasn't expecting the exhaustion, honestly. But to see them in action now, they're getting into line and accustomed to it. But it's also like a throw for me because I also have to get that schedule going where, oh, well, we come home and they still have to do bath and dinner and homework, and not just for one, but then for two. So it gets a little tricky. So you have to figure out, get that plan going, get that schedule on, and you know, you're helping me with that. So that's you getting me all lined up, so I'm ready.
So now that they're in kindergarten, are you still using the daily routines charts? Are they helping you?
Honestly, I have not been using them to the full potential. I'm not gonna fib because I started to feel a little overwhelmed, even though I know Miss Brenda was getting me ready for kindergarten. I, as the parent, felt overwhelmed, strangely enough, but I know it would be a big help for me and for them to get back on that daily chart schedule so they know what's coming, they know what's happening at the end of the day, and we can both be on the same wavelength without surprises. For me personally, and knowing my kids' personalities, they needed that bit of intense, they needed that firmness, they needed that extra structure, because funny enough, I work with kids too, privately, as a nanny, and you know, it's weird, but I can give it to those kids, but it's so hard to then come and do it for my kids. And so you were giving me something that I just couldn't figure out how to do with my own kids, which was strange. And having you get them started on this program with all that structure and getting them to be where they needed to be was a necessity, because it took some of that pressure of trying to teach them and me running out of patience and just not being able to give them everything I felt like they needed. So you stepping in was the best thing ever. Absolutely.
Thank you. How do you feel about your kids being the ones showing the world how it's done and they're going to be so famous? Are you not worried about the future?
No. Listen, I believe in your program, so that does not faze me at all. As far as my kids, they're cute, they're good looking, they're charismatic. I'm not worried about future things because this is only helping them. I'm so happy that they can be here to help with this process, show you their process, and know that it's not always easy. There are tears, there's tantrums, but I have to, as a parent, have to allow you to do what you do best. And so if it means you have to be firm or they have to tantrum, it is what it is, because in the end, they get to where they need to be. And that is the main goal, just getting them through those phases.
Parents ask me about the promptings. You know, I touch your kids a lot. I move their hands a lot and I sit them and I do. How do you feel about that?
I'm okay with it. It's sometimes it's a sort of a necessary, in the sense that sometimes they need that slight touch. As a parent, you always want to jump in and be like, oh, you know, make excuses for them. But sometimes, again, as I said, they need that firmness. And sometimes that firmness is with a little touch. It gets them to snap back into what they need to focus on. And you have to find these ways to grab their attention and pull them back in. It works for them, and I'm okay with it because it's worked from beginning and it still works now, so I'm fine with it.